Hello dear, how are you all? Welcome to Solace for Sleep. In 1879 a French zoologist named Alphonse Milne-Edwards was examining specimens collected during a deep-sea expedition in the Gulf of Mexico. Among the usual catches of fish and crustaceans something unusual appeared. Something that looked like it belonged on another planet. It was roughly the size of a football. Segmented armor plating covered its entire body. Multiple pairs of legs extended from its underside. And two enormous black compound eyes stared out from what could only be described as an alien face. Milne-Edwards had discovered the giant isopod. And when he published his findings, the scientific community was stunned. Here was a creature that resembled the common pill bugs found in gardens and under rocks. Those tiny creatures children play with that curl into balls when touched. But this version was enormous. Thousands of times larger. Living at depths where no human had ever ventured. And exhibiting behaviors that challenged everything scientists thought they knew about crustacean biology. The giant isopod became an instant sensation. Museums displayed preserved specimens. Artists created illustrations for scientific journals. And researchers began asking questions that are still being answered today. How does something so large survive in the nutrient-poor environment of the deep ocean floor? Why did it evolve to such an extreme size? And what other secrets does this armor-plated scavenger hold? Tonight you are going to learn about one of the strangest creatures in the ocean. A creature that looks like it crawled out of a science fiction movie but is absolutely real. A creature that can survive years without eating. That can grow to the size of a house cat. That scavenges the ocean floor eating things most animals would not touch. So settle into where you are right now. Let your body relax completely. Let me take you down to the bottom of the ocean where the giant isopod waits in the cold darkness. Imagine yourself in a deep-sea research vessel. Not a small submersible this time, but a larger craft capable of reaching the abyssal plane. The floor of the ocean at depths between 2,000 and 4,000 meters. You descend slowly. Hours pass as you sink through layers of water. The light fades. The temperature drops. And eventually you reach the bottom. The seafloor here is not sand or rock. It is soft sediment. Mud composed of decomposed organic material that has been falling from the surface for thousands of years. In the beam of your vessel's lights you see shapes moving. Slow, deliberate movements. And then one of them crawls directly into the light. A creature that makes you instinctively lean back from the window even though you are completely safe inside reinforced steel. The giant isopod. And its story begins now. Fact 1. The giant isopod belongs to the genus Bathynomus, which means deep walker in Greek. There are approximately 20 species of giant isopods known to science, though new species are still being discovered. The most commonly studied species is Bathynomus giganteus, which is found in the cold, deep waters of the western Atlantic Ocean, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Fact number 2. Giant isopods are crustaceans. This means they are related to crabs, lobsters, and shrimp. But their closest relatives are actually the tiny pill bugs and sow bugs found on land. These terrestrial isopods are usually less than 2 centimeters long. But their deep-sea cousins can grow to lengths of 50 centimeters and weights exceeding 1.5 kilograms. That is roughly 20 inches long and over 3 pounds. The size difference is extraordinary. Fact 3. The phenomenon of deep-sea creatures growing to unusually large sizes is called deep-sea gigantism, or abyssal gigantism. Scientists have observed this pattern in multiple species. Giant squid, giant tube worms, giant amphipods. The giant isopod is one of the most dramatic examples. Theories to explain this gigantism include colder temperatures leading to slower metabolism, reduced predation pressure, and adaptations to maximize efficiency in food-scarce environments. Fact 4. The body of the giant isopod is protected by overlapping plates of rigid exoskeleton. These plates are made of chitin and calcium carbonate, creating armor that is both flexible and extremely strong. The exoskeleton is divided into segments that allow the isopod to move and even curl into a ball when threatened. This defensive posture is identical to what pill bugs do, but seeing a creature the size of a football curl up is considerably more unsettling. Fact 5. The color of giant isopods ranges from pale lilac to brown depending on the species and individual. This coloration provides little camouflage benefit since the deep ocean floor is pitch black. But the pigmentation may protect against the small amounts of bioluminescent light produced by other deep-sea creatures. Or it may be a vestigial trait inherited from shallow water ancestors. Not every feature of an organism has a current function. Some are simply evolutionary leftovers. Fact 6. The eyes of the giant isopod are compound eyes composed of thousands of individual lenses called ommatidia. These eyes are sessile, meaning they do not move in sockets like vertebrate eyes. Instead, they are fixed in place on either side of the head. Despite their impressive size, these eyes provide relatively poor vision. At the depths where isopods live, there is almost no light to see by anyway. The eyes probably function primarily to detect movement and the faint glow of bioluminescence. Fact 7. Giant isopods have 7 pairs of legs. 14 legs in total. These legs are called pereiopods and they are adapted for walking along the seafloor. The isopod moves slowly and deliberately. It does not swim. It does not burrow. It simply walks across the muddy bottom searching for food. Watching footage of a giant isopod walking is strangely hypnotic. The coordinated movement of all those legs creates a mechanical rhythm that seems almost artificial. Fact 8. In addition to walking legs, the giant isopod has 5 pairs of pleopods. These are swimming appendages located on the underside of the abdomen. While the isopod primarily walks, it is capable of swimming short distances by flapping these pleopods in a coordinated motion. The swimming is awkward and energy-intensive. The isopod only swims when absolutely necessary. Usually when it needs to reach food quickly before competitors arrive. Fact 9. The antennae of the giant isopod are long and sensitive. They extend forward from the head and are used to sense chemical signals in the water. These antennae can detect the scent of carrion from great distances. When a dead whale or fish sinks to the ocean floor, it releases a plume of organic molecules that disperses through the water. Giant isopods detect this plume and follow it to its source. They are among the first scavengers to arrive at a carcass. Fact 10. The mouth of the giant isopod is located on the underside of its body. It consists of 4 sets of jaws called maxillipeds. These jaws work together to manipulate food and tear flesh from carcasses. The isopod does not have teeth in the traditional sense. Instead, it uses these serrated jaw structures to cut through skin, muscle, and even bone. The feeding process is slow and methodical. The isopod can spend hours or even days consuming a single meal. Fact 11. Giant isopods are opportunistic scavengers. This means they eat whatever becomes available. Their primary diet consists of dead whales, fish, and squid that sink to the ocean floor. But they are not picky. They will consume marine snow, which is the constant rain of organic particles falling from the surface. They will eat living, slow-moving creatures like sea cucumbers if given the opportunity. And in laboratory settings they have even been observed engaging in cannibalism, consuming weaker or recently molted individuals. Fact 12. The digestive system of the giant isopod is designed for efficiency. Food enters the mouth and passes into a simple stomach where initial digestion occurs. From there it moves through intestines where nutrients are extracted. What cannot be digested is expelled as waste. But here is what makes the isopod remarkable. It can extract nutrition from material that most other creatures would find completely inedible. Rotting flesh, decomposing tissue, material that has been sitting on the seafloor for weeks. The isopod's gut can handle it all. Fact number 13. One of the most astonishing abilities of the giant isopod is its capacity to survive extended periods without food. In aquarium settings, isopods have been observed going over 5 years without eating. 5 years. During this time they remain alive and apparently healthy. Their metabolism slows to almost nothing. They enter a state of dormancy. And they wait. This ability is essential for survival in the deep ocean where food arrives unpredictably and long periods of scarcity are common. Fact 14. When a large food source does become available, such as a whale carcass falling to the ocean floor, the feeding frenzy that follows is intense. Dozens or even hundreds of giant isopods converge on the site. They crawl over each other in their eagerness to access the flesh. They tear off chunks of meat and consume them as quickly as possible. This is their chance to gorge, to fill their stomachs completely, because they do not know when the next meal will arrive. Fact 15. The sight of multiple giant isopods feeding together is both fascinating and disturbing. Their armored bodies clambering over the carcass, their legs working in coordination, their jaws tearing methodically at decomposing tissue. It looks like something from a horror film. But this is simply nature operating at the bottom of the ocean. Death above feeds life below. The isopods are performing an essential ecological service by recycling nutrients back into the deep sea ecosystem. Fact 16. Giant isopods are capable of consuming enormous amounts of food in a single feeding session. A large individual can eat more than half its own body weight in one meal. This gluttony is a survival strategy. In an environment where food is scarce, you eat everything you can when you have the chance. The isopod's stomach is highly expandable. After a large meal, the creature's body visibly swells. It becomes bloated and sluggish. But it has secured enough nutrition to survive for months or potentially years. Fact 17. Reproduction in giant isopods is poorly understood because mating has rarely been observed. What scientists do know is that females carry fertilized eggs in a special pouch called a marsupium located on the underside of the thorax. This pouch provides protection for the developing embryos. The female carries these eggs for several weeks or months until they hatch. The young emerge as miniature versions of adults, fully formed, ready to begin scavenging immediately. Fact 18. The number of offspring produced varies, but females typically carry between 20 and 30 eggs at a time. This is relatively few compared to many marine creatures that release thousands or millions of eggs into the water. But the giant isopod invests more heavily in each offspring. By protecting the eggs in the marsupium and giving birth to fully developed young, the survival rate is much higher than it would be for tiny vulnerable larvae drifting in the open ocean. Fact 19. Giant isopods grow through a process called molting. Like all crustaceans, they must periodically shed their rigid exoskeleton in order to increase in size. During molting, the old exoskeleton splits, and the isopod crawls out, leaving behind a perfect hollow replica of itself. The new exoskeleton underneath is soft and vulnerable. It takes several days for the new shell to harden. During this time, the isopod is at risk. It hides. It does not move. It waits for the armor to solidify before resuming normal activity. Fact 20. The molting process is energetically expensive and dangerous. Some isopods die during the molt. They become trapped in the old exoskeleton, or they are attacked by predators or other isopods while vulnerable. But molting is necessary for growth. Without it, the creature would remain trapped forever in the same body size, unable to mature, unable to reproduce. The risk is worth taking because the alternative is stagnation. You are still watching through the window of the research vessel. The giant isopod on the seafloor has not moved much. It sits there on its 14 legs, antennae waving slowly, compound eyes reflecting the beam of your lights. There is something primordial about it. Something that existed long before humans and will likely exist long after. It is not graceful. It is not beautiful in the traditional sense. But it is perfectly designed for its world. And you realize that beauty is subjective. What looks alien and unsettling to you is normal to the isopod. This is its home. This muddy darkness. This crushing pressure. This scarcity of food. It knows nothing else. And it has no desire for anything different. It does not dream of sunlight or warmth or abundance. It simply exists where it is. Content. Complete. Your breathing has become very slow now. Deep and steady like the movement of deep ocean currents. Your body feels heavy. Relaxed. You are no longer thinking about the surface world. About responsibilities or worries or plans. You are here in this moment watching a creature that has no concept of time or future. That lives entirely in the present. And that presence is contagious. Let yourself adopt that same mindset. That same acceptance of the moment. You do not need to be anywhere else. You do not need to do anything else. You can simply exist. Simply be. Like the giant isopod sitting motionless on the dark seafloor. Waiting. Resting. Being. There is peace in that simplicity. In that lack of striving. In that complete surrender to what is rather than what might be or should be. The isopod teaches this without trying. Without knowing it is teaching anything. It simply demonstrates through its existence that sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing at all. Fact 21. The habitat of the giant isopod is one of the most stable environments on Earth. The temperature at abyssal depths remains constant year-round, hovering just above freezing. The pressure is enormous, but it never fluctuates. There are no storms. No waves. No seasonal changes. This stability has existed for millions of years. And in this unchanging world, the giant isopod has become perfectly calibrated. It needs no adaptations for varying conditions because conditions never vary. Fact 22. The deep ocean floor where isopods live is not barren wasteland as many people imagine. It is actually quite populated. Brittle stars carpet the sediment. Sea cucumbers plow through the mud. Crabs scuttle between rocks. Bacteria form mats on every surface. The giant isopod exists within this community. It is neither predator nor prey in the traditional sense. It is a recycler. A cleaner. An organism that breaks down what others cannot consume and returns it to the system. Fact 23. Giant isopods have been found at depths ranging from 200 meters to over 2,000 meters. But they are most common in the bathyal zone between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. This is deep enough to avoid most surface disturbances, but not so deep that pressure becomes prohibitive even for their hardy bodies. Within this zone they occupy a specific niche. Bottom dwellers that patrol the seafloor in search of carrion. Fact 24. The walking speed of a giant isopod is incredibly slow. Studies have clocked them moving at roughly 4 centimeters per second when actively traveling. That translates to about 140 meters per hour. Less than half the speed of a typical human walking pace. But the isopod is not in a hurry. It conserves energy by moving deliberately. Every step is calculated. Every movement has purpose. Speed would waste precious calories that might not be replaced for months. Fact 25. Despite their slow movement, giant isopods are capable of covering significant distances over time. Researchers have tagged individuals that traveled several kilometers across the seafloor over the course of weeks. They appear to have home ranges, though these ranges overlap extensively with other isopods. There is no territorial behavior. No defense of specific areas. Just slow wandering across an enormous landscape searching for the next meal. Fact 26. The sensory world of the giant isopod is dominated by chemical detection. While their eyes provide some visual information, it is their antennae and chemoreceptors that truly guide them. They can detect amino acids released by decomposing tissue. They can sense the presence of other isopods. They can differentiate between food sources based on chemical signatures. The ocean is a soup of dissolved molecules, and the isopod reads this soup like we read text on a page. Fact 27. Giant isopods are surprisingly long-lived for crustaceans. Exact lifespan in the wild is difficult to determine, but estimates based on growth rates and aquarium specimens suggest they may live 20 years or more. Some researchers believe certain individuals could survive for 30 or 40 years. This longevity makes sense given their slow metabolism and infrequent feeding. They are not burning through life quickly. They are enduring it slowly. Fact 28. The exoskeleton of the giant isopod is not perfectly smooth. Under close examination it appears rough and pitted. These imperfections are caused by bacteria and other microorganisms that colonize the surface. The isopod becomes a habitat in itself. Tiny creatures live on its shell. They consume particles that settle there. They form miniature ecosystems. The isopod either does not notice or does not care. It carries entire worlds on its back as it walks across the ocean floor. Fact 29. When threatened or disturbed, a giant isopod can roll into a ball with its armored back exposed and its soft underside protected. This behavior is called conglobation. The overlapping plates lock together, creating an almost impenetrable sphere. Predators find it difficult or impossible to access the vulnerable areas. The isopod can remain in this defensive posture for extended periods. Hours. Days if necessary. Waiting for the threat to pass. Fact 30. Very few creatures actively hunt giant isopods. Their size and armor make them unappealing targets. But they are occasionally consumed by large bottom-feeding fish or deep-sea sharks. Sperm whales diving to extreme depths may also eat them opportunistically. However, predation pressure is low. The isopod's greatest threats are not biological but human. Deep-sea trawling operations sometimes catch isopods as bycatch. And climate change may eventually alter the deep ocean in ways that affect their survival. The isopod you have been watching suddenly begins to move. Slowly it turns and walks away from the light of your vessel. You watch its segmented body recede into the darkness. The coordinated movement of its legs. The slight sway of its antennae. And then it is gone. swallowed by the blackness as if it never existed at all. But you know it is still out there, somewhere in the darkness, walking its slow, deliberate path across the seafloor, searching for food it may not find for months, existing in a state of perpetual patience that humans can barely comprehend. There is something profound about that existence, something that challenges our assumptions about what life requires to be fulfilling. We live in a world that celebrates speed, productivity, constant activity. The idea of doing nothing for years at a time seems like failure, like waste. But the giant isopod proves that there is another way. That survival can be achieved through stillness rather than motion, through patience rather than urgency, through acceptance rather than striving. Your own body has adopted that stillness now. You are not moving, not fidgeting, not adjusting position. You are as still as the isopod waiting on the seafloor. And in that stillness you find something unexpected. Not boredom, not restlessness, but peace. Deep calming peace that comes from not needing anything to be different than it is. The darkness behind your closed eyelids has become the darkness of the deep ocean. The pressure of blankets against your skin has become the pressure of water miles deep. You are there now, on the abyssal plain, where time moves differently, where patience is not a virtue but a necessity, where waiting is not suffering but simply existence. Let yourself wait now. Wait for sleep the way the isopod waits for food, without anxiety, without checking to see if it has arrived yet, without wondering if it will ever come. Just wait. Trust that it will arrive when it arrives. And until then you can rest here in the darkness, in the stillness, in the eternal present moment that the giant isopod inhabits so completely. There is nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, nothing to become. You are already everything you need to be. Right here. Right now. Resting on the floor of the ocean. Armored against the world. Safe in the darkness. Waiting patiently for sleep to arrive. Fact 31. The giant isopod has become a subject of fascination in popular culture. Plush toys modeled after the creature are sold in Japanese aquarium gift shops. Artists create illustrations and sculptures. The isopod has appeared in video games and animated films, usually portrayed as a monster or alien creature. But those who study it know the truth. It is not a monster. It is simply a highly specialized scavenger that happens to look unsettling to human eyes. Fact 32. Several aquariums around the world maintain giant isopod exhibits. The Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, the Toba Aquarium in Japan, the Deep Aquarium in England. These exhibits allow the public to observe living isopods up close. Visitors press their faces against the glass, staring at creatures they never knew existed. Children are simultaneously fascinated and horrified. Adults ask questions. Is it real? Is it dangerous? Can I touch it? The answer to the first question is yes. To the second question is no. And to the third question is absolutely not. Fact 33. Keeping giant isopods in captivity presents unique challenges. They require cold water maintained at precise temperatures. They need high pressure or at least low pressure that does not stress them. They must be fed infrequently, which seems counterintuitive to aquarium staff accustomed to feeding animals daily. And most challenging of all, they are prone to stress. Changes in water quality, unexpected disturbances, or incompatible tank mates can cause them to stop eating and eventually die. Fact 34. One famous case involved a giant isopod at the Toba Aquarium in Japan that refused to eat for 5 years and 43 days. Aquarium staff offered it fish, squid, and other foods regularly, but the isopod rejected everything. It simply sat on the bottom of its tank motionless. Visitors came to see the creature that never ate. It became a minor celebrity. Then in 2014 the isopod suddenly died. Necropsy revealed that its digestive system was completely empty. It had truly gone over 5 years without consuming anything. Fact 35. This case sparked debate among scientists. Why would the isopod refuse food even when it was readily available? Some researchers suggested the aquarium environment was too stressful. Others proposed that the isopod had eaten a large meal before being caught, and was simply digesting it very slowly. Still others wondered if there was something about captivity that disrupted the creature's feeding instincts. The question remains unanswered. The isopod took its reasons to the grave. Fact 36. The nervous system of the giant isopod is relatively simple compared to vertebrates. It consists of a series of ganglia-connected nerve clusters that run along the length of the body. There is no centralized brain in the way mammals have. Instead, neuroprocessing is distributed. Each segment of the body has some degree of autonomy. This decentralized system is efficient and robust. Damage to one area does not necessarily compromise the entire organism. Fact 37. Giant isopods breathe using gills located on the underside of the abdomen. These gills are delicate feathery structures that must remain moist to function. Water flows over them as the isopod walks or swims carrying dissolved oxygen. The isopod extracts this oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. The process is passive and efficient. No active pumping is required. As long as water keeps moving over the gills, the creature can breathe. Fact 38. The blood of the giant isopod is not red like human blood. It is pale bluish or colorless. This is because it uses a copper-based oxygen transport molecule called hemocyanin instead of iron-based hemoglobin. Hemocyanin is more efficient in cold, low-oxygen environments, which is why many deep-sea creatures use it. The copper gives the blood a faint blue tint when oxygenated, though in most cases the blood appears clear or slightly milky. Fact 39. Giant isopods are capable of limited regeneration. If a leg is damaged or lost, the isopod can regrow it over multiple molting cycles. The new leg starts as a small bud and gradually increases in size with each successive molt until it reaches normal proportions. This regenerative ability is common in crustaceans, but it is still remarkable. The capacity to rebuild lost body parts without medical intervention or complex healing processes. The isopod carries repair mechanisms in its genetic code. Fact 40. The oldest known giant isopod fossils date back approximately 160 million years to the Jurassic period. This means isopods have existed largely unchanged since the age of dinosaurs. While other lineages evolved into thousands of new forms, isopods found a body plan that worked and stuck with it. They are evolutionary conservatives, not interested in innovation or experimentation, content to remain as they have always been. The research vessel you are in begins a slow ascent. You have spent enough time on the ocean floor. The mission is complete. As you rise through the water column, you think about what you have witnessed. Not just the giant isopod itself, but what it represents. Survival through simplicity. Success through patience. Endurance through acceptance. The creature does not strive for greatness. It does not aspire to be more than it is. It simply exists within its niche, fulfilling its role without complaint or ambition. And in that humble existence it has outlasted countless species that burned brightly and faded quickly. The isopod's strategy is the long game. The eternal game. The game of simply not quitting. Your breathing has become so slow and deep that you barely notice it anymore. Your body feels like it is floating even though you are lying down. The boundary between yourself and your surroundings has become unclear. You are merging with the darkness, becoming part of it. And that does not frighten you. It comforts you. There is wisdom in becoming small, in reducing yourself to essentials, in letting go of everything that is not necessary. The giant isopod lives this way. Stripped down to the basics. Armored body. Searching antennae. Slow legs. Waiting. Always waiting. And in that waiting it has found a kind of immortality. Not personal immortality, but the immortality of a species that refuses to go extinct. You can adopt that same approach to sleep. Stop trying so hard. Stop checking if it has arrived yet. Stop worrying about how long it will take. Just wait. Quietly. Patiently. Like the isopod on the dark seafloor. Trust that sleep will come when it comes. And until then you can rest in the not sleeping. In the space between waking and sleeping where the mind is quiet and the body is still. That space is where you are now. Not quite asleep but no longer truly awake. Drifting in the dark water between consciousness and dreams. And it is enough. More than enough. It is exactly where you need to be. Fact 41. The scientific study of giant isopods has contributed to broader understanding of deep-sea ecology. By analyzing what they eat, researchers can determine what kinds of organic material reach the ocean floor. By tracking their movements, scientists can map nutrient distribution across vast areas. The isopod serves as a biological indicator. Its presence and behavior reveal information about the health and dynamics of deep ocean ecosystems that would be difficult to obtain through other means. Fact 42. Climate change is beginning to affect even the deepest parts of the ocean. Water temperatures are rising slowly but measurably. Ocean chemistry is shifting as more carbon dioxide dissolves into seawater. These changes may eventually impact giant isopods, though scientists are not yet certain how. The creature has survived previous climate shifts over millions of years. But those changes occurred gradually. The current rate of change is unprecedented in geological history. Fact 43. There is ongoing debate about whether giant isopods should be considered a single species with global distribution or multiple distinct species that look similar. Genetic analysis has revealed differences between populations in different ocean basins. Some researchers argue these differences are significant enough to warrant classification as separate species. Others believe they represent regional variations within a single highly adaptable species. The taxonomy is still being worked out. Fact 44. Giant isopods have no economic value to humans. They are not harvested commercially. They are not used in traditional medicine. They have no industrial applications. This lack of value has protected them from exploitation. But it also means there is little financial incentive to study or protect them. Conservation efforts for deep-sea creatures often struggle for funding because these animals do not capture public attention the way charismatic megafauna like whales or dolphins do. Fact 45. Despite their lack of commercial importance, giant isopods play a crucial ecological role. They are among the primary consumers of large carcasses that sink to the ocean floor. Without scavengers like isopods, these carcasses would decompose much more slowly. Nutrients would remain locked in the bodies instead of being recycled back into the ecosystem. The isopod accelerates the breakdown process. It transforms death into life. It closes the circle. Fact 46. Deep-sea mining operations are expanding into areas where giant isopods live. Companies are exploring the ocean floor for valuable minerals and metals. The extraction process involves scraping the seafloor and disturbing sediment. This activity destroys habitat and buries organisms under clouds of suspended particles. The long-term impact on isopod populations is unknown. But history suggests that when human industry enters an ecosystem, consequences follow. Fact 47. There is something humbling about the giant isopod's indifference to humanity. It does not know we exist. It does not care about our achievements or our problems. It lives in a world completely separate from ours. We can study it. We can admire it or be repulsed by it. But we cannot touch its life in any meaningful way. It remains beyond our influence. And that independence is increasingly rare in a world where humans have left fingerprints on nearly every ecosystem. Fact 48. The giant isopod reminds us that life finds ways to exist in places we consider uninhabitable. The deep ocean floor seems like the last place anything would choose to live. Cold, dark, barren, hostile. And yet it is home to thousands of species. They have adapted. They have specialized. They have carved out niches in conditions that would kill surface-dwelling creatures within minutes. Life is more resilient and more creative than we give it credit for. Fact 49. If you could communicate with a giant isopod and ask it about its life, what would it say? Nothing, probably. It has no concept of life as we understand it. No awareness of past or future. No sense of self or identity. It simply responds to stimuli. Chemical signals indicating food. Physical sensations indicating danger. It exists in pure reaction. Pure instinct. And perhaps there is freedom in that. Freedom from the burden of consciousness. From the weight of knowing. Fact 50. The greatest lesson the giant isopod teaches is about patience. Not the forced patience of waiting for something you want, but the natural patience of an organism that has no expectation of when the next meal will arrive. The isopod does not count days. It does not grow frustrated when food does not appear. It simply continues existing. Waiting is not suffering for the isopod. Waiting is life. And in that realization there is peace available to us if we choose to accept it. The research vessel has reached the surface. Sunlight streams through the windows. The air is warm. You have returned from the abyss. But part of you remains below. Part of you is still on that dark seafloor with the giant isopod. Still walking slowly across the mud. Still waiting patiently for what may or may not come. You carry that patience with you now. That acceptance of uncertainty. That willingness to exist without needing anything to be different. The isopod has taught you without trying to teach. Without even knowing you were watching. It has demonstrated through its simple existence that life does not require constant stimulation or achievement or progress. Sometimes life is just about continuing. About being here one more day. And then another. And another after that. Your eyes have been closed for some time now. You cannot remember exactly when you closed them. The transition was so gradual you did not notice. And that is how sleep arrives when you stop trying to capture it. It creeps in slowly while you are distracted by stories of strange creatures and dark water. It surrounds you before you realize what is happening. You are no longer in the research vessel. You are no longer at the bottom of the ocean. You are in your bed. In your room. In your life. But you carry the ocean with you. The darkness. The stillness. The patience. These things are inside you now. Gifts from the giant isopod. From a creature that has no idea it gave you anything. Let that darkness become complete. Let the stillness deepen. Let the patience expand until it fills every part of your awareness. You do not need to wait for sleep anymore. Sleep is already here. It arrived while you were not paying attention. While you were watching an armored creature walk slowly across the ocean floor. The giant isopod continues its journey somewhere in the depths. Walking. Searching. Waiting. It will do this tomorrow. And the day after. And every day for years to come. It knows nothing else. Wants nothing else. And in its complete acceptance of its existence, it has found something we all seek. Peace. Purpose. A reason to continue that requires no justification beyond simply being alive. Sleep now. Sleep as deeply as the ocean where the isopod lives. Sleep as peacefully as the creature that knows no anxiety. Sleep as completely as the darkness that surrounds the abyssal plain. Let everything go. Let yourself sink. Let the world fade away. There is only this. Only now. Only the gentle descent into dreams where giant armored creatures walk through endless night. And you walk with them. Slow. Patient. Home. Good night.